The Raptors are in the middle of their head coaching search, and a surprising candidate is now the odds-on favorite to take over the team. But who do I really want to become the next head coach? Let's break it down right now. All right, so I was alerted to this by one of the viewers on the stream as we started here. And FanDuel has the odds up for the next Raptors head coach. Now, I will preface this by saying I don't think any of these odds are good. I don't think any of these odds are worth betting on. It's just a decent indication of maybe where interest is at, where the reports are at, and maybe perhaps, I'm not sure, where some sharper money is at. I think the limits are very low on this, so it's not really being shaped by sharp action. But the odds-on favorite, according to the FanDuel Sportsbook, for the next Raptors head coach is Becky Hannon. Now, I don't think these are very conducive of what the actual situation is. I don't think that at all. But it does showcase here that she is a legitimate candidate to take over this coaching spot. Previously, Adrian Griffin was a favorite. Maybe she just picked up some money. A lot of people betting on it, which moved it to plus 340 here. But Becky Hannon at plus 340 is the favorite to become the next Raptors head coach. That was surprising for me to see. If you guys don't understand odds, that's okay. Plus 340 is the equivalent of just under 23% chance she becomes the next Raptors head coach. So Adrian Griffin at plus 350, about 22%. Again, I don't really think these odds are accurate. I would put Becky Hannon, if she's a favorite, I still think she should be somewhere like plus 1,000, plus 1,500. But this is where we're at from a market standpoint. It appears as though there is a lot of support for Becky Hannon as head coach. And I made a video on the main channel, Amateur Sports, not very long ago, talking about Becky Hannon's coaching candidacy. I will be honest, I expected to get a little bit more heat for my support of her. But ultimately, there was a lot of people who were talking about Becky Hannon as, a good coach and understanding that and not being sexist about it, which was great to see. Great to see from this community. So props to you guys for doing that. I mean, Becky Hannon worked under Greg Popovich for the better part of a decade. Great success there. She went to the WNBA and obviously has had success there, winning the WNBA championship with the Las Vegas Aces, also winning Coach of the Year there. I'm not as concerned about that WNBA stuff. I mean, it does add on a little bit to her coaching candidacy, but the great time she had in San Antonio is good to see. One indictment against her would be for sure the fact that she's only worked with one team as an assistant. So I'd like to see maybe her working as an assistant with a different organization. Don't know if that's the Raptors. I mean, she's working right now in preseason with the Aces, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But hey, great coaching candidate, but not my number one choice. Not my number one choice for the Raptors head coaching spot. My number one coaching choice is also here on this list, but he's placed in at number 4 here. And I'm happy to see, because when these odds opened up, he was not even on the list. Now he's number 4 plus 700. That is Jerry Stackhouse. Jerry Stackhouse, I get asked this a lot about who my favorite coaching candidate is for the Raptors. Number 1 right now is Jerry Stackhouse. It was for a period of time, briefly, Patrick Mutombo, who actually isn't even on, doesn't have any odds listed here. But Jerry Stackhouse is my number 1 candidate. And I'll give you a few reasons why over the course of this segment here. Jerry Stackhouse, currently the coach of Vanderbilt in the NCAA, and they're in a tough conference. And Vanderbilt, from a financial standpoint, from a facility standpoint, don't have the financial capabilities to compete in, I believe it is the SEC conference of basketball. And in the SEC, they're playing against, who do we got here? In the SEC, they're playing against the likes of the University of Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Missouri State, Florida Gators, Alabama, like tough teams in the SEC in basketball. Vanderbilt just don't really have the capabilities seemingly to compete with them, but still every year they do. Every year recently, the last couple of years, they do. And it's because Jerry Stackhouse and the amazing work that he's done with that team. He's a very developmentally driven coach, We saw that very well in the 2017 D-League with the Raptors 905. This would be a great opportunity to bring him back to the organization. Won the D-League championship with the Raptors 905. Worked with players like Fred VanVleet, like Pascal Siakam, who won Finals MVP, by the way, in that D-League championship. Though it worked with Jakob Poeltl as well. Very developmentally driven coach. This team, I really want somebody who's going to be focused on development, focused on developing our players. But I also want to see something different with this team. A lot of times when you go after a new coach, when you find a new coach, you want to find, like, not quite the polar opposite of what you previously had, but just a complete shakeup. And I think this is the shakeup you could get because Nick Nurse was a very defensively driven coach. Jerry Stackhouse is a very offensively driven coach. And from an offensive standpoint, he's very tactical, big on the X's and O's. And for a Raptors team who I just absolutely hated watching their half-court offense this season for the most part, it'd be a welcome sight to see maybe Jerry Stack getting the most out of this group from an offensive standpoint. Maybe if Fred VanVleet's back, getting the most out of him as a point guard, getting the most out of Barnes, Siakam, and the like. Stackhouse, I think, is a great candidate from a coaching standpoint. He has experience in this league. He played 19 seasons in the NBA. He was an all-star twice. He's well-respected around the league. But the only drawback on Stackhouse, and it was in a little bit of hot water in his early days with Vanderbilt, I will concede, and part of his problems with Vanderbilt, a lot of Vanderbilt players have entered the transfer portal because Stackhouse is a hard ass. Stackhouse makes you work, and he is very, very demanding of his players. And it was too much for some of the players in the NCAA to handle. Too much for them to handle. They entered the transfer portal. But my thought process here is that with the Raptors, obviously, he's working with grown men. He's working with guys in the league, getting paid millions of dollars. So my expectation is they'll be able to handle it better. They'll be able to handle that a little bit better and deal with the demanding nature of him. And I think this team could do with some accountability. I think this team could do with, a kick in the ass from time to time if things aren't going well. So I agree here with what Sher Khan is saying, chat. I think he is the guy that can get the best out of this roster. So I really like Stackhouse for his experience from a coaching standpoint, his experience from a playing standpoint, and the ties to the organization already. Just add a little bit of a cherry on top to his candidacy. I really like that. Another very developmentally driven coach, not my top candidate, Stackhouse, but Patrick Mutombo is another good candidate that I'd be interested in. Patrick Mutombo, very developmentally driven coach, did really well with the Raptors 905 when he was their head coach. Saw a lot of development there at the time. Was a scout and development coach with the NBA Raptors for a number of years as well. Was an NBA champion with the Raptors as part of Nick Nurse's assistant coaching staff. And that time with the 905 as their head coach for a couple of seasons really gave him the experience in leading his own group. And now he's getting a little bit of extra experience working right now on Monty Williams' staff with the Phoenix Suns. I think there is enough on his resume to warrant him getting a head coaching gig. So I think that's a great candidate. Other decent candidates that I'm interested in, I like Adrian Griffin. I like Kenny Atkinson. Sam Cassell's a decent option. And around the league a little bit more. I think Charles Lee's a decent guy to bring in. But there's a lot of good coaching candidates out there. Becky Hannon is one of those included that the Raps could go with. Right now, we're in the middle of the playoffs. Guys are getting fired. We just saw Budenholzer get fired. Maybe the Nuggets don't perform well enough. They're up 2-0 right now. But maybe Michael Malone becomes available as head coach. But if I had to choose right now, if I had to sign a coach right now, my guy would be Jerry Stackhouse. And I'm a fan of Jerry Stackhouse. That is my pick. A lot of different ways that Raps can get this right. A few ways I think they can get this wrong. But I'm really intrigued by the possibility of Jerry Stackhouse coming into this team.